Outlander Book Club, Book 1, Chapter 1 Breakdown. Today is Outlander Day, which means the Claire and Jamie Outlander Book Club has begun. We start with the breakdown of Chapter 1 from the first novel by Diana Gabaldon, titled Outlander. As promised, this will be for book first and show first fans alike. Whether you've read the books 1,000 times or this is your first time picking up the novels, you're more than welcome, and we're splitting into 3 sections. The first is for the show first fans, those who are picking up the books for the very first time. The second section is for those who have read the books before, whether it was before or after watching the show, and for those who have no interest in the TV series. The third section is for a connection to the TV show, whether you've watched it before or after reading the books. We're only focused on the first chapter. While the second section will link to future books, it's only a focus on the chapter itself and a talk of the foreshadowing or things that I've noticed after reading the books. We're not doing a deep dive into other chapters. There's still time to read and join in. The first chapter is 23 pages, in the trade paperbacks. The first chapter introduces us to Claire and Frank. We're set in Inverness in 1945. In some versions, it's going to be 1946. Immediately, we get to know Claire's personality. She shares about her past, including her time with Uncle Lamb. We get a sense of her stubbornness, of her willingness to adapt, and of her nomadic life with Frank. There is a look at how she was a nurse in the war and some of the things she's seen, although there's not a lot of time spent on this. For the most part, she's looking forward to a future with Frank. While he is off researching his lineage, Claire is happy exploring Inverness and getting ready for a life as a housewife in Oxford. And I would say she is settling for a life out of work. Frank suggests she takes up botany, as it doesn't sound like she's planning on continuing her nursing career. This is just an introduction to the characters, but I do sense the love between them. They care for each other deeply and are happy together. However, one thing is certain, they're still in the honeymoon phase considering how little time they've spent together while married because of World War II. Something else that comes up in the chapter is the story of the ghost. However, Frank doesn't exactly believe it is a ghost. There's a part of him that doesn't want to admit that ghosts exist, and there must be a logical explanation. That explanation is that a Scottish man was taken with Claire during the war and he's found her. I get it. He would worry about this hearing of stories of nurses, doctors and their patients. However, Claire brings up an interesting point at the end. She hints that she wonders if Frank was unfaithful during their marriage. The second part of the Outlander Book Club is to explore the foreshadowing. There's plenty early on. There are a few things that I can see that connect to future storylines. The first is definitely the ghost. We know that the Highlandman outside is a ghost. And he is definitely Jamie. How he's there, we don't know yet. That's for something in Outlander Book 10. In a way, the conversation with the ghost is foreshadowing something to come. Frank worries that Claire was unfaithful. She eventually is. Despite being in the past, she's still married to Frank in her own linear timeline. Even though he's not around in the past, she still loves him and is still married to him, so she does have an affair by marrying and falling in love with Jamie. But there are a few other elements even from the beginning. We get a sense of Claire's stubbornness. At age 5 she was unwilling to go to a boarding school. She wanted to remain with her Uncle Lamb, and that meant going on a journey around the world. It's clear that the story is setting her up as a woman who will be able to survive in the 18th century. Then there's Frank's love of history and facts. He tells Claire everything he finds fascinating. For some, this is annoying. But I like it. It shows that Frank is passionate about something and he wants to share that passion. Claire isn't interested but amuses him, just like I guess Frank would just amuse Claire when he's not interested in something she is passionate about. But the facts Frank shares are important for Claire, even if she doesn't realize it. The facts about Highlander's superstitions definitely foreshadows events that will happen. I'm thinking mostly about the changeling child and the fears that Claire is a witch. There are other superstitions that come up in future books. One of the superstitions made me think of Stephen Bonnet. There's the story that Frank tells of contractors killing one of the workers when building homes and burying that body in the wall. We know that Bonnet was a contractor and almost killed at one point. At one point, Claire mentions 100 brushes of her hair. This connects to 100 lashes that Jamie received. It was actually 200 in the end, but it started as 100. This is actually something I've overlooked in the past, probably because I haven't assessed the novel in the way I am doing with this read-through. Another connection to Jamie would be the story of the Scottish man who was scared of needles. We know how Jamie later reacts to the idea of needles, although he doesn't scream like a baby.